I still remember the day we made first contact with Earth. Actually, let me rephrase that. I remember the day we thought we understood humans. Spoiler alert, we didn't. My name is Vakthar, Senior Intelligence Officer for the Kalveen Collective, and I've spent the last 3 solar cycles studying these bizarre primates from the third planet of a mediocre star system. When our scouts first detected their radio signals, we laughed. Actual, wheezing, mandible-clicking laughter. They were broadcasting entertainment into space. Comedies. Dramas. Something called reality television that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Primitive, declared High Commanders Rex during our initial briefing. Weak. Divided. They'll surrender within hours of our arrival. If only we'd known. The Kalveen Collective had conquered 47 star systems in the past millennium. We had protocols. We had procedures. We had overwhelming military superiority and technology that would make their scientists weep. What we didn't have, as it turned out, was a single functioning brain cell when it came to understanding humanity. Our invasion fleet arrived on a Tuesday. I know this because humans are obsessed with naming their days, which honestly should have been our first warning sign. Any species that needs 7 different names for segments of their week clearly has time to think about things we haven't considered. The fleet materialized above their largest continent, casting shadows across millions of square kilometers. 300 warships. 15,000 fighter craft. Enough firepower to crack a planet's crust like an eggshell. Commanders Rex opened communications immediately, broadcasting on all frequencies. His message was simple, translated into their dominant languages through our neural processors. People of Earth. You are hereby annexed into the Kalveen Collective. Surrender your weapons, your governments, and your autonomy. Resistance is futile. You have one of your hours to comply. Then we waited. And waited. And waited some more. 53 minutes passed in complete silence. Our sensors showed increased activity in their military installations. Nothing concerning. Their most advanced weapons were chemical propulsion missiles that traveled slower than our cargo transports. Their fighter jets couldn't even reach orbit without strapping themselves to controlled explosives. It was almost sad, really. Then, with exactly 7 minutes remaining in our deadline, every screen in our fleet lit up simultaneously. A human face appeared. Male. Older. Gray hair. Wearing a dark blue suit with a ridiculous red strip of fabric tied around his neck. Hello up there, the human said, leaning back in his chair. This is President Marcus Reeves of the United Earth Council. We received your message. Very dramatic. Great special effects with the shadow thing. Really set the mood. Commanders Rex's facial tendrils twitched in confusion. You mock us? Mock? No, no, no. The human smiled. It was not a friendly expression. Humans bare their teeth when they're happy, angry, or planning something terrible. We still haven't figured out how to tell the difference. We're just a little confused about your proposal. See, we talked it over. All of us. Every nation, every government, every person with a working brain. Took us about 40 minutes to reach unanimous agreement. Unanimous? I whispered from my station. Impossible. Our intelligence reports show 195 separate governmental entities. They can't even agree on how to measure temperature. President Reeves continued, apparently hearing nothing. And the answer is... Well, let me put this diplomatically. He leaned forward, his smile widening. Go kick rocks, you tentacle-faced bullies. The communication cut out. Commanders Rex stared at the blank screen for approximately 5 seconds before his vocal sac inflated with rage. Open fire. That's when things got interesting. Our targeting systems locked onto their major cities. New York. London. Tokyo. Beijing. Moscow. Mumbai. 50 more. Standard protocol. Destroy infrastructure, break their will, accept surrender. Except our weapons wouldn't fire. Sir, called out Tactical Officer Bren from his station, we're experiencing system malfunctions across all offensive platforms. Impossible. Run diagnostics. While Bren frantically worked his controls, I noticed something odd on my surveillance feeds. Across the planet's surface, in seemingly random locations, massive doors were opening in the ground. Hidden facilities. Underground complexes that our preliminary scans had completely missed. Commander, I said slowly, I think we should. I never finished that sentence. The first missile hit our flagship starboard shields at approximately 8% light speed. Not their chemical rockets. Something else. Something that punched through our barrier systems like they were decorative tissue paper and carved a 20-meter hole through 3 decks. Evasive maneuvers. Srex screamed. But evasive maneuvers require functional propulsion systems, and apparently, while we'd been busy congratulating ourselves on our superiority, something had been systematically infiltrating our networked computers. More missiles launched from the planet's surface. Hundreds of them. Thousands. They moved with impossible precision, weaving through our defensive formations like they knew exactly where each ship would be before we did. How? Bren's voice cracked. How are they doing this? The communication screens flickered back to life. This time, a different human appeared. Female. Younger. Dark skin. Wearing what I later learned was a military uniform, covered in colorful rectangles that apparently indicated she was very good at her job. Hi boys, she said cheerfully. I'm General Patricia Okafor, and I'll be your nightmare for this evening. Quick question, did you really think we'd broadcast our entire technological development into space for decades without keeping a few surprises hidden? That's adorable. You sabotaged our ships. Srex sputtered. Sabotaged? No. We prefer the term aggressively borrowed access to your operating systems. You see, when you scanned our planet with your fancy sensor beams, we scanned you right back. Then we sent up a few thousand microsatellites packed with some very persuasive code. Been in your network for 3 days now. You're welcome. Another explosion rocked our ship. Through the viewport, I watched the destroyer, Wrath of Kelvin, break apart in a cascade of fire and metal. You might want to surrender, General Okafor continued. We've already disabled 70% of your offensive capabilities and 40% of your life support systems. Oh, and about that whole, crack your planet like an eggshell thing? Rude. Very rude. Commander Rex's mandibles clacked together rapidly, a sign of extreme stress. Retreat. All ships, retreat to jump coordinates. About that. The general's smile turned positively predatory. We've established a gravitational interdiction field around this entire solar system. Something we cooked up based on theoretical physics we found in one of our entertainment shows. Funny how fiction sometimes predicts reality, isn't it? That's impossible. That's what our physicists said too, right up until it worked. Turns out, when you're a species that evolved surviving ice ages, predators, diseases, and each other, you get really creative with problem solving. Also spite. Never underestimate human spite. I watched our tactical display as more ships took damage. The Crimson Thunder. The Blade of Ages. The definitely not compensating for anything, which yes, we actually named a warship that, and yes, we're embarrassed about it now. We offer terms. Srex shouted desperately. Negotiation. Peace talks. Oh, now you want to talk. General Okafor examined her fingernails casually. Fine. Here are our terms, you leave. Immediately. You go back to whatever corner of space you came from, and you spread the word. Earth is off limits. Humans are off limits. We don't want to join your little club, and we definitely don't want to be conquered by beings who think good military strategy is, show up and demand surrender. And if we refuse? Then we demonstrate the other toys we've been building. She gestured off screen, and the view shifted to show something. A massive structure in orbit. It looked like someone had taken a particle accelerator, made it the size of a city, and pointed it at space. We call it the goodbye cannon, she said proudly. Takes about 6 minutes to charge, fires a concentrated beam of accelerated particles at near light speed, and has an effective range of about 3 light-years. Would you like a demonstration? No. Zrex and I shouted simultaneously. Excellent choice. Then I suggest you start heading for the exit. Our interdiction field has a small gap near Jupiter. We'll guide you through. After that, you're someone else's problem. The communication cut again. Commander Zrex slumped in his command throne, all 4 of his arms hanging limply. How? He whispered. We studied them. We watched them. They were fighting each other over resources, over ideology, over imaginary lines on maps. I pulled up the intelligence files, scanning through reports with fresh eyes. Sir. I think that was the point. They weren't just fighting. They were learning. Every war, every conflict, every competition. They were testing weapons, tactics, strategies. Against each other. Because they didn't have anyone else to fight. You're saying they used their own wars as training exercises? I'm saying they turned their entire species into a weapons testing ground for thousands of years, and we just flew into the results. A junior officer approached, tentacles trembling. Commander, the humans are broadcasting a message. Planet-wide. They're celebrating. Show me. The screens displayed scenes from across Earth. Humans gathering in their streets. Cheering. Laughing. Some were crying. Many were embracing each other. In multiple cities, they were launching colorful explosives into their atmosphere purely for aesthetic purposes. And everywhere, absolutely everywhere, they were playing music. They're happy. Zrex sounded genuinely confused. They just defeated their first alien invasion, I said quietly. Together. All of them. Every human on that planet just proved they're the apex species in their solar system. But they're so fragile. They die from infections. From minor temperature changes. From consuming the wrong organic materials. They're fragile, I agreed, watching another human celebration on screen. But they're not weak. There's a difference. The retreat order went through. Our remaining ships, damaged and humiliated, began limping toward Jupiter under human escort. Small Earth vessels, barely the size of our shuttlecraft, guided us like shepherds herding incompetent livestock. President Reeves appeared on screen one final time as we prepared to jump. Before you go, he said, that terrifying tooth-bearing smile returning, I want you to deliver a message to your collective. Tell them humans are done being afraid of the dark. Tell them we know we're not alone anymore. And tell them. His expression hardened. Tell them we're coming. Not to conquer. Not to destroy. But we're coming out there, into the stars, and we're going to meet our neighbors properly. On our terms. Is that a threat? Zrex asked weakly. It's a promise. The president leaned back again. Oh, and thanks for the motivation. Nothing unites humanity quite like a common enemy. You just did more for world peace than the last 1,000 years of diplomacy. We're actually thinking of building a statue in your honor. We'll send you pictures. The communication ended as we jumped to faster-than-light travel, leaving Earth and its terrifying inhabitants behind. That was 6 Earth months ago. Since then, I've been assigned to the newly created Human Affairs Division. My job is to monitor Earth and report any developments to the Collective Council. It's not a popular assignment. Nobody wants to think about the humans. Nobody wants to remember our failure. But I watch. Because someone needs to. And what I've seen keeps me awake during my rest cycles. They're building ships, stations, weapons. They've unified their governments into something they call the Terran Alliance. They've militarized their moon. They've established mining operations on Mars. They've sent exploration drones to every rocky body in their solar system and started cataloging resources like they're planning a construction project. But that's not what worries me most. What worries me is the message they broadcast last week. Not aimed at the Kalveen Collective. Not aimed at any specific species. Just out there. Into space. In hundreds of languages, including several we didn't know they developed. The message was simple. Hello, universe. Humanity here. We're new to this whole space civilization thing, but we're quick learners. We come in peace, we're interested in trade and cultural exchange, and we respect the sovereignty of all sapient species. It paused there, and I relaxed slightly. Maybe they were going to be reasonable after all. Then the message continued. However. And this is important. If you come to our home with weapons and demands, if you threaten our people, if you think we're easy prey because we're young and small and far from galactic center. You will learn very quickly why humans survived everything our planet threw at us for millions of years. We are not weak. We are not helpless. And we are absolutely done apologizing for existing. The message ended with coordinates. Open communication channels. Trade proposals. Scientific collaboration offers. And right at the end, almost like an afterthought, detailed specifications for their goodbye cannon. Just so everyone knows what we're working with, the message explained cheerfully. Transparency is important in interstellar relations. I filed my report with the Council yesterday. Recommended status, extreme caution. Recommended policy, avoid all contact with humans until further assessment. The Council's response arrived this morning. Apparently, 3 other species have also encountered humans in the past months. The Vril Concordat found them establishing a trade outpost in neutral space and was shocked at their negotiation skills. The Pelthic Hive attempted to claim salvage rights to an abandoned human probe and received a very polite but extremely firm legal document explaining why that wouldn't be happening. And the Zithian Empire, may their ancestors weep, actually tried to raid a human cargo vessel. That didn't end well for the Zithians. The Council's new policy regarding humanity is simple: leave them alone, accept their trade offers if presented, and for the love of all that exists in the cosmos, do not under any circumstances attempt to conquer, intimidate, or underestimate them. As for me, I'm keeping my job. Someone needs to watch the humans. Someone needs to track their expansion, their development, their integration into galactic civilization. Because I have a feeling, and my feelings are rarely wrong, that humanity isn't just going to survive out here among the stars. They're going to thrive. And honestly, after what they did to our invasion fleet with technology they developed while still confined to a single planet, I'm terrified to see what they'll accomplish once they really get started. 3 months after my last report, everything changed. Not slowly. Not gradually. Not with the careful diplomatic maneuvering you'd expect from a species barely 6 months into interstellar awareness. No. Humans decided to throw a party, and they invited the entire galaxy. I was reviewing surveillance data when the announcement hit every major communication network simultaneously. The broadcast originated from Earth's orbital station, a massive structure they'd somehow constructed in less than 4 months. Our engineers spent 3 days arguing about how that was physically possible before accepting that humans apparently don't care about our construction timelines. A human woman appeared on screen. Dr. Keiko Yamamoto, according to the translation matrix. She wore a white coat covered in colorful markings and had the kind of smile that made my survival instincts scream warnings. Greetings, galactic community, she began, speaking slowly and clearly. Humanity would like to formally invite all peaceful species to the first-ever interstellar innovation exchange, taking place in 3 standard months at our lunar facility, Armstrong Base. We'll be sharing technological advances, cultural presentations, and scientific discoveries. Also, there will be food. Lots of food. Humans take food very seriously. The camera angle widened, showing dozens of other humans behind her, all waving enthusiastically. We're providing transportation assistance for species that need it, translation services, and accommodation suitable for various atmospheric requirements. All we ask is that you come in peace, bring your best ideas, and maybe teach us something new. We're the new kids on the block, and we have so much to learn from all of you. She paused, her expression turning serious. Oh, and fair warning, we're also unveiling our first faster-than-light capable vessel. The TAS Discovery. We figured if we're joining the galactic community, we should probably be able to visit our neighbors properly. See you in 3 months. The broadcast ended. I immediately contacted Commander Rex, who had been demoted to station administrator after our failed invasion. He answered looking like he hadn't recharged in days. You saw it? He asked. They built a faster-than-light ship. In 6 months. It took our civilization 200 years to develop FTL technology. I know. They're inviting everyone to their moon to show it off. I know. This is insane. Srex's facial tendrils drooped. Vokthar, I've been monitoring human information networks. Do you know what they're calling this party? No. The Humanity Says Hello Festival. They've created promotional materials. Entertainment programs. Educational content for their children explaining which species are attending and how to be respectful of cultural differences. Their entire planet is treating first contact like some kind of celebration instead of the terrifying cosmic revelation it actually is. I pulled up the promotional materials he mentioned. He was right. Humans had created detailed guides about the 17 species that had already confirmed attendance. The Vril Concordat. The Pelthic Hive. Even the Solvari Dominion, who famously hate social gatherings and only interact with other species when absolutely necessary. Are we attending? I asked. The council is still debating. Half want to ignore it completely. A quarter want to send a delegation. The remaining quarter want to file a formal complaint with the Galactic Assembly about humans developing FTL technology without proper oversight. There is no oversight body for technological development. I know. They're trying to create one specifically for humans. I rubbed my sensory organs tiredly. This species is going to reorganize the entire galaxy, aren't they? Probably. The 3 months passed faster than I wanted. The Kalveen Council eventually decided to send a small diplomatic team. I was included because apparently being humiliated by humans once qualifies you as an expert on human behavior. Lucky me. We arrived at Armstrong Base on a human transport vessel called the Unity. The pilot, a cheerful human named Marcus Webb, spent the entire journey telling us about human history, showing us pictures of his family, and offering us something called coffee, which smelled like industrial solvent and apparently humans consume voluntarily. First time seeing the moon up close? Marcus asked as we approached. We have observational data, I replied carefully. Not the same though, is it? There's something special about seeing it in person. Humans walked on this rock with nothing but chemical rockets and pure stubbornness. Every time I fly past those old landing sites, I get emotional. We came so far on nothing but dreams and math. Armstrong Base was larger than our intelligence suggested. Massive domed structures connected by transparent tunnels. Gardens visible inside the domes. Actual vegetation growing on an airless rock because humans apparently need plants around them for psychological comfort. The landing bay could accommodate 50 vessels simultaneously. Already I counted ships from at least 20 different species. The Vril's elegant bioships. The Solvari's geometric constructs. The pelvic hives organic transports that always made me uncomfortable. And at the far end of the bay, taking up nearly a quarter of the available space, sat the Discovery. It was beautiful. I hated admitting that, but it was true. Sleek lines. Efficient design. The hull shimmered with some kind of adaptive plating that seemed to shift colors based on viewing angle. Human aesthetic sensibilities combined with functional engineering in a way that made our warships look like flying storage containers. Impressive, isn't she? Marcus said proudly. We've been calling her disco for short, which apparently is also a type of music genre from our past. Humans are weird about nicknames. We disembarked into a receiving area filled with humans wearing matching blue uniforms with friendly expressions. One approached immediately, holding a small device. Welcome to Armstrong Base. I'm Jennifer Park, your cultural liaison. This device will provide real-time translation and can answer basic questions about human customs. Please don't hesitate to ask if you need anything. We want everyone to feel comfortable. Thank you, I managed, taking the device. Oh, and heads up, we're about to have a welcoming ceremony in the main auditorium. You're not required to attend, but there will be food, and our entertainment coordinator promised it would be quote, epic, unquote. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but humans seem excited. The auditorium was enormous. Seating for thousands arranged in a circular pattern around a central stage. Already it was filling with beings from across the galaxy, all chattering in dozens of languages while human staff moved through the crowd offering refreshments and assistance. I found a seat next to a Vril diplomat named Chesick, who I'd met at previous council meetings. Quite the spectacle, Chesick observed, his scales rippling with amusement. Humans certainly don't do anything quietly. Have you learned anything useful? I asked. Only that humans view this gathering as both diplomatic necessity and social celebration. They genuinely seem excited to meet us. Not as potential allies or threats, but as interesting individuals they want to know better. It's remarkably refreshing after centuries of purely transactional galactic politics. The lights dimmed. The crowd quieted. Onto the stage walked President Reeves, the same human who had told us to go kick rocks 6 months ago. He looked older now, more tired, but still wore that dangerous tooth-bearing smile. Welcome, everyone, to the first Interstellar Innovation Exchange. We're honored so many of you accepted our invitation. For those keeping track, we have representatives from 41 different species here today. 41. 6 months ago, we thought we were alone. Now we're hosting the galaxy's most diverse party. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Apparently multiple species found human enthusiasm amusing. We've prepared presentations on various technological and cultural topics. But before we get into the technical stuff, I want to share something personal. When I was young, I looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone else was out there. Wondering if we'd ever meet. Wondering if they'd be friends or enemies or something in between. He gestured to the crowd. Now I know. You're all of the above. You're complicated. You're fascinating. You're sometimes frustrating and occasionally terrifying, but you're here. You're real. And that means humanity isn't alone anymore. Neither are any of us. The auditorium erupted in applause. Multiple appendages clapping, clicking, or vibrating in approval. President Reeves waited for silence. Now, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Yamamoto, who's going to explain some very exciting developments. Fair warning, she gets really enthusiastic about physics. It's adorable but intense. Dr. Yamamoto practically bounced onto the stage as President Reeves left. She activated a holographic display showing complex mathematical formulas. Okay, everyone, let's talk about how we broke physics. I leaned forward despite myself. So, faster than light travel. Most of you have it. Most of you have had it for centuries or millennia. Your methods vary. Hyperspace tunnels. Dimensional shifting. Alcubierre drives. Wormhole manipulation. All brilliant solutions. The formulas shifted, reorganizing into new patterns. Humans, being stubborn and slightly crazy, looked at all these methods and said, what if we combined the best parts? We took real dimensional mathematics, added Solvari energy field manipulation, incorporated pelthic organic computational processing, and threw in some absolutely wild theoretical physics from our own researchers. She paused dramatically. The result is a hybrid drive system that's approximately 30% more efficient than current galactic standard, produces minimal spatial distortion, and costs about 60% less to construct. We're calling it the collaborative drive, because we literally couldn't have built it without learning from all of you. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Then Chesick beside me whispered, they improved our technology. In 6 months. Dr. Yamamoto continued, oblivious to the stunned reactions. And because humans are apparently terrible at keeping secrets, we're releasing the complete specifications as open source information. Anyone can use it. Anyone can improve it. Anyone can build on it. Because that's how progress works, right? We share. We collaborate. We make things better together. The auditorium exploded into chaos. Species representatives shouting questions. Some in outrage. Some in excitement. Some in complete disbelief. I just sat there, my translation device struggling to keep up with the noise, and realized something fundamental about humanity. They weren't trying to dominate galactic civilization. They were trying to fix it. Over the next 3 days, I attended 17 different presentations. Humans shared medical advances that could revolutionize treatment for 3 different species-specific diseases. They demonstrated agricultural techniques that could increase food production on resource-poor worlds. They showcased art, music, literature, and entertainment from hundreds of their cultures. But the most remarkable presentation came on the final day. A young human named David Okonkwo took the stage. He couldn't have been more than 25 Earth years old. He wore casual clothing and looked nervous. Hi everyone. I'm a graduate student in xenobiology, which is a field that didn't exist a year ago and now somehow I'm getting a degree in it. I want to talk about something humanity learned the hard way: diversity makes you stronger. He activated a display showing Earth's history. Wars. Conflicts. Suffering. For most of our existence, humans fought each other over differences. Skin color. Belief systems. Resources. Geographical location. We were really good at finding reasons to hate each other. The images shifted to more recent events. Cooperation. Collaboration. Unity. Then you all showed up and tried to conquer us. And suddenly, our differences didn't matter anymore. We were all humans. We all wanted to survive. We all wanted to protect our home. Within hours, every human nation worked together for the first time in our history. He smiled sadly. It shouldn't have taken an invasion to unite us. But it did. And now that we're united, now that we're learning about the galaxy, we're realizing something important: diversity isn't weakness. It's strength. Every species here has different perspectives, different solutions, different ways of thinking. Alone, we're all limited by our own experiences. Together, we can solve problems none of us could handle individually. He gestured to the crowd. So here's what humanity wants to propose. An actual galactic community. Not a hierarchical empire. Not a loose collection of independent species that barely interact. A real community where we share knowledge, resources, and support. Where small species aren't afraid of big ones. Where new civilizations aren't targeted for conquest. Where we all work together because we're better together. David paused, taking a deep breath. Humans call this crazy. Idealistic. Impossible. But we'd been told lots of things were impossible. Flying was impossible until we built wings. Going to the moon was impossible until we did it. Uniting every human nation was impossible until you gave us a reason. So maybe, just maybe, creating a real galactic community is only impossible until we make it happen. The applause started slowly. One being. Then another. Then the entire auditorium rose in a standing ovation that lasted 5 full minutes. I found myself standing too, clapping despite my better judgment. The festival concluded with a dinner featuring cuisine from 17 different worlds. Humans had somehow created dishes that were simultaneously safe for multiple species to consume and actually tasted good. I tried something called pizza, and I'm not ashamed to admit I went back for seconds. As I prepared to board my transport home, I encountered Dr. Yamamoto in the corridor. "Leaving so soon?" she asked. "I have reports to file. Recommendations to make." "What will you tell them?" "Your counsel." I considered my words carefully. "That humanity is the most dangerous species we've ever encountered." Her smile faded. "Because you don't conquer with weapons. You conquer with hope. You make us believe things can be better. You make us want to try." The smile returned. "Is that really so dangerous? To the old ways? To the established order? To species that profit from keeping others weak and divided?" I met her eyes. Absolutely terrifying. I boarded my transport. As we pulled away from Armstrong Base, I watched the Discovery being prepared for its maiden voyage. A test run to a nearby system, according to the schedule. My report to the Council was simple. Humanity has arrived in galactic civilization not as conquerors or servants, but as partners. They offer collaboration instead of domination. They share instead of hoarding. They unite instead of dividing. They are innovative, stubborn, idealistic, and absolutely sincere in their desire to make the galaxy better for everyone. Recommended action: embrace this change or be left behind as the galaxy reorganizes around human principles of cooperation and mutual support. The Council's response arrived 2 days later. They wanted me to continue monitoring humanity. But this time, not as a threat assessment. As a learning opportunity. Apparently, after 47 conquered systems and 1,000 years of military expansion, the Kalveen Collective was finally ready to try something different. 6 months after that, we signed a formal alliance with the Terran Alliance. 1 year after that, 12 other species had joined what humans were calling the Cooperative Coalition. 2 years after first contact, humanity had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy had failed to achieve: they made us talk to each other. Work with each other. Actually care about each other's well-being. And they did it without firing a single shot after that first invasion. I'm writing this report from Armstrong Base, where I now serve as Kalveen Ambassador to Earth. My quarters have a window overlooking the lunar surface, and at night I can see Earth rising over the horizon. It's beautiful. Humans were right about one thing: seeing it in person is different than observational data. They were also right about something else. They aren't weak. They never were. They just hadn't had a chance to prove it yet. And now that they have, now that the galaxy knows what humans are capable of when they work together, when they dream together, when they refuse to give up on the impossible, the universe will never be the same. Commander Rex asked me last week if I regretted our failed invasion. I told him no. Because that invasion, that moment of complete humiliation, that absolute defeat at the hands of a species we underestimated, it was the best thing that ever happened to us. It woke us up. It showed us there was a better way. It introduced us to humanity. And honestly, I wouldn't change a single thing.